One. All right, we are back with another podcast discussion. This time we're going to be talking about Invincible, the series, but mainly just episode 1 at this point. I am Omega
Season
Zero.
1, episode 1, yeah. You are who?
I am Omega Zero.
I am Late Night CJ, a.k.a. Sweet Teddy in the streets.
And like I said, we're going to be talking about Invincible. Now, I've been seeing this everywhere for like the last month or so I was like, you know what? I'll check the show out. It's just like, I heard nothing but good things, so I was going in cautiously.
That ain't what you told me.
I
You said you heard nothing but murder, death, homicide,
That is not what I said.
and cussing.
I did not say that. But most of the time when people were talking about the show, they were saying pretty much nothing but good things about it. Mm-hmm. So I went in cautiously optimistic because most of the time when people just say nothing but good things about the show, I'm like, are they biased? Do they just really like it? Are they trying to force me to like it? Stuff like that.
Right.
So I went in and I was not disappointed. Well, let me rephrase that. I watched the entire series. I was only disappointed in one thing, but you can't make everything perfect in a series. But we are here to talk about Season 1, Episode 1.
Yes.
About a month too late. But I don't like to jump on the bandwagon.
Sometimes you gotta let it breathe. You know what I mean? Everybody, it's not about, I remember Denzel Washington said this about the news. He said it's not about being first, it's about being right.
I think nowadays it's changed too. It's not about being right, it's about being first.
He's talking about like for longevity.
For longevity, sure.
I mean, because, you know what I mean? News sources have to print retractions because they wanted to be first and then something happened with the story.
Yeah.
But anyway, Season 1, Episode 1. Right. Your thoughts?
My thoughts?
Yeah.
It was very good. Granted, it was longer than I was initially expecting. I went in and I thought, like, oh yeah, it's a season premiere, so it's like maybe an hour or so long. I thought, all right, maybe.
You told me 20 minutes,
I thought it was 20 minutes.
You
like for every other episode.
Multiply by 3.
But yeah, most season premieres for like a brand new series typically go on longer than normal. Maybe set up a conflict of an overarching plot.
Mm-hmm. Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing, in this case. And like for this episode overall, yeah, it's kind of generic in the way that it starts.
Right.
You know, like typical looks like your DC universe animated TV shows like the Justice League, the Batman, and all that.
Right.
At least when it first started off, just like a little bit more violent here and there, but overall I still think it was pretty good. Like again, like the generic stuff kind of annoyed me a little, but
no,
that's at that point where I'm kind of like a little burned out.
I'll tell you at the beginning, and this is me being the person splitting hairs. I'm willing to admit that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you got the Molar twins.
The Molar twins. Yeah, the blue clones that are attacking the president.
Right.
The White House. Okay.
So they got these big guns on top of the White House, blasting at him, right? Mm-hmm. And he's all, oh yeah, it kind of tickles or something like it. Kind of, you know, he kind of made reference like is more annoying than painful, right?
Yeah.
Then he gets socked in the eye, and all of a sudden he loses an eye and it's bleeding.
He gets shot in that. Well, because the eyes are sensitive parts. Because because here's the thing. Like, I'll go with Dragon Ball for for an example. In Dragon Ball, you can train up the rest of your body, but instead you can't train up the sensitive parts. Like you can't train up your eyes to be more resistant to bullets, or you can't train up your liver. Like, so if someone hits a sensitive point in your liver or in intestines or a kidney, it's still gonna hurt. You can train up the rest of your body to be resistant to every single form of physical pain, but that soft, squishy inside parts, you can't do that as easily. So that's like the whole point. Like, he got shot in the eyes. I'm pretty sure if you get shot in the eye, it's still gonna hurt.
He's like, ah!
Because it's like I said, it's a sensitive part of the body.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you can't train up the physical part unless you're like Superman, or in this case,
I'll tell you what. When I called you after I watched it.
No, we're gonna jump ahead here.
No.
All right.
I almost checked out off of that scene alone. I mean the entirety of the scene, like when the
White House scene,
when
right?
the fake Avengers jumped out. right?
They're more akin to the Justice League than the Avengers.
Justice League, okay. We'll go with that. Okay. You had the black man dressed like Batman, kind of. Then you have Aquaman, who was a fish.
Actual fish.
Which was an actual fish. And then you had the guy that was supposed to be like Flash.
Red. I think they call him like Red Flash or something. Like, I'll probably put the names of like each of the characters and a photo of them like here and there.
Right. Then you have Omni-Man,
who's just Superman for me.
Right. You know,
he's literally just Superman.
Omni-Man, every kind of like omnivore.
He like
does it all.
Has like every generic superpower.
Right.
Well,
flies,
not every,
he
but
flies, cape, super strong.
Like the most basic ones.
Right. You know, it's just like I'm watching this and I'm like.
Basically, you have like a not Martian Manhunter, but in this case, a woman who like phases through stuff.
Right. You have Invisible guy, that woman and everything.
You have Wonder Woman, basically, and then you have the Immortal, who I don't think we have like a direct comparison to.
But this was the thing. It was like, okay, the story I could tell was about to get complex. That they can just, I call that a throwaway.
Mm-hmm.
They can just say, it's almost like their powers and their costume mean nothing. The story will be deeper than this.
Mm-hmm.
Than following around the fake Flash or Batman or something like that. It's almost like inconsequential. And so I was like, for that alone, I decided to write it out. As we were talking, just a little step, I'm not going to jump all the way ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little foreshadowing, and what I'll say later is, I can see that the context in the writing for this series, it's deeper than what somebody who just kind of half clicks through some channels and sees it. Oh yeah, let me see this. They'll be like, oh, this is lame. But if you give it a chance,
if you ride it out
past that first 15 to 20 minutes, well, I won't say 20 minutes. I'll say like 10 to 15 minutes, and allow it to start to develop, you'll be surprised.
Yeah. And then, like, after we move on to, like, the initial, like, the saving of the White House, and we kind of move on to Omni-Man. So I'm like, I believe the series mainly follows his son, Mark Grayson.
Half Asian, half white guy.
Or, in this case, half alien.
Yeah.
Half Asian.
Mm-hmm. He is alien.
His dad is Omni-Man, like, as we see throughout the series. And they're like, oh yeah, like, oh, Dad's at the White House again. Oh, they'll miss breakfast. And it's like, yeah, the president doesn't even live there anymore. The thing gets blown up like 3 times every month.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, so it establishes that in this universe of the Invincible, that common attacks on the president are, again, fairly common. Mm-hmm. That basically, like, it's conspirized that the president doesn't live there.
Right.
They're used to, Mark's used to his dad going off saving the world or saving the
president.
There's
always just one person responsible for being the guardian of this galaxy.
Or like one protector, all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then like throughout the show, like Mark's like, oh, I'm just like a normal human, even though my dad's a superhero. And then it's like later on throughout the episode, he starts to develop his powers to an extent. He doesn't have full control over them, obviously, because if you imagine like, you live your whole life as a normal human, and then like as soon as you turn 18, like I can fly now. Like, oh crap, I can't fly, or I have super strength. How do I control it? Stuff like that. And then like, so it's like it kind of goes with a somewhat realistic way, and I say somewhat realistic because again, like superheroes and all that. Like, how would one realistically know how to fly without like say a jetpack or a set of wings or a plane?
And this leads into what I was talking to you about earlier, off camera or off mic, off the record, whatever, was there's some parallels as the parent in our situation. Is like he's watching his son learn how to manage a new level of responsibility.
Yeah.
And in real life, it's like watching your child becoming an adult with all the freedoms now that they are allowed to partake in when they become an adult, and having to watch them navigate through that and becoming who they are. In this case, him becoming Invincible, the character, he had to watch him make the mistakes of not knowing how to fly, not knowing how to land, not knowing how to control his strength and things that are not becoming narcissistic because you're invincible. You are 16, 17 years old. You can fly, superhuman strength.
I think in the show, like, they are actually like 18.
He said he was about to turn 18. He said usually by the age of 18.
By usually the age of 18. It's like, so he's either a little bit before 18, he's 18, or he's a little bit after 18.
He's a senior.
He's a senior. He's around the age of like he's going to graduate.
So it's like I was telling you off the record how it runs kind of parallel, and that was another factor that allowed me not to check out. Was like, okay, they're cognizant in their writing. They're not just. It's not a spoof cartoon. You know what I'm saying? It literally has some depth to it. It's just a matter of if you're willing to, like I said, ride it out.
Yeah. And like it is like a good show because like when he's trying to do the whole landing thing, like his mom comes out, he's doing it in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
He's like, I gotta practice my landing. He's like, I want to be a superhero. I was like, mom's like, hey, no, go to sleep.
Another thing too that delves into the reality of life is that how he wanted the approval and how hard it is. Like, how do you, as a child? Because remember, they said he's known that this is his dad.
Like bases at the beginning.
Right. Could you imagine how inadequate? Because remember, there was a certain part. I won't tell you yet. We'll get to it. I'm not gonna spoil it. But he was like, "Yo, like he low-key, like he was seeking his dad's approval."
Yeah, like to an extent, like again, it's like I guess like an example like they did in Justice League for like the closest comparison. You had Superman and then you had Supergirl. Mm-hmm. Supergirl was originally like the older one, I believe, in the comics, but like by the time she got to her, Superman Clark Kent was already like an adult. He had to take care of her. He had to show her all the things like
already established.
So it's like Supergirl's a new kid on the block, same way Invincible is.
Right.
So it's kind of like, how do I process this?
Mm-hmm. And then you have to deal with the fact that your dad is Omni-Man. Like, imagine Michael Jordan's kids.
And they wanted to play basketball or something.
One of them did.
Yeah.
You know, and he wasn't good. You know what I mean? And that's why I was like, the struggles between the youth and the older, and then the struggles from the older and the youth, the struggle from son or, you know, child to parent, and parent to child. It's really deep. It was really deep. That's why they could just throw away Aquaman actually being a fish. You know what I mean?
Like, and you think like, oh, like Omni-Man's part of these like group of like the Justice League in this world.
Yeah.
And in the home life, Mark's just kind of dealing with his whole thing, like going back to the thing. Like his mom now feels like I'm the only human now. And like when he was trying to practice, like no, you have to go to school. I'll practice that. And then Mark gets a little aggressive and is like, make me. And he's like, she kind of was like, you're right, I can't make you, but like I still care for you, like. And then ultimately it's like, all right, like I was like, oh man, I messed up. Like he's still a kid. He's still basically.
That's what I'm saying. Navigating with these new freedoms, not freedoms, but powers.
In this case.
In this case, yes, power, and being responsible. You know what I mean? Like a child when he turns 18 to his parents, and they were like, you have yourself in this house by midnight. I'm grown. I'm an adult. You can't tell me what to do. Well, legally, I can't tell you what to do anymore.
Yeah.
But I respect, you know what I mean?
Respect your autonomy enough to let you know. Like,
freedoms equate to powers in this sense. So, like I said, it was very deep. It played to the psyche. I liked it.
I think we also then jumped to like the next day we was at school. We get into, well, earlier in the show we actually get introduced to his friend, whose name I unfortunately forget at this time.
You'll run it back right now.
Yeah, I'll run it back. I'll probably put the name and thing like right here or something. And then I think it's not either this episode or the next episode, we get somewhat introduced to his like love interest.
It was was it the black girl?
Yeah.
You get introduced to her.
Yeah. It was different in the comics, but I'll explain that for later when we actually watch the whole
Real quick, I'll tell you this. As far as the real people in the show, like, cause you know they all had their alter egos. And,
like the real like people like humans.
There was some diversity. You got an Asian mother, a half Asian child. You got, what is it, 2 black?
No, you had the black.
Invisible lady is black. Batman is black.
It's shown later, but
Wonder Woman was black.
No, she wasn't.
One of them was the woman with that or the helmet on in the lock. She was black. The one that
no, like not the Wonder Woman character, but like another character in the show. Like two other like prominent characters, one for an episode, one for like a little bit.
There's two black women that are the one that the invisible one with the green.
I think you're talking about Amber.
No, there is two. One of them, a woman that she was talking to the white lady at the building, and her watch. Because I thought her necklace was gonna start blinking when they was all getting in the car, but it was her watch. And then the little white lady was like, "You gotta go," and she's like, "Yeah, you know," and she just takes off, and then the invisible woman takes off.
Maybe because I don't fully remember because I binge watched the entire series last night.
I watched it. I delved into it. I was like, because I told my son, I said, I can't keep coming on these episodes,
not knowing nothing.
I was like, I said I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch them and I'm going to add something to the conversation instead of spending the whole time up here. Who is that? What they do? Huh?
So I will there is diversity in the show and there was in the comics, but in the comics I believe Amber in the show is basically split between two people in the comics. You have Amber who was Mark Grayson's girlfriend, and then you had her friend who was black who didn't like him, but Amber in the comics was kind of because I'm not entirely sure. Kind of like a stereotypical blonde, but not really. Like she had some traits of it. She was kind of in the middle, like of a typical blonde and not typical blonde, but she was like somewhere in the middle. But we'll get into Amber way later when my dad watches the rest of the series.
Yeah,
because I have several issues with that, but we'll get to it later. And then Mark, before he gets his powers, is kind of bullied at school by this typical dude.
He plays kind of the Peter Parker type role.
At least at first.
At
first, because we'll see that later on in the series. And then
he kind of reminded me of Miles
Morales.
Yeah.
To an extent, he's even his friends dude, you're just average. Mark is literally your average high school kid.
Yeah, kind of like Miles.
In the same way, well, I won't even say Peter because Peter was actually super freaking smart. But, Miles was your typical average school kid.
That was the first thing that came to my mind, especially with him, with the cultural diversity they presented in there. I was like, and then him being kind of awkward with it. Remember when Miles first learned how to be a Spider-Man?
Or at least in the movie. In the movie, because
he kind of struggled with how do I?
He's he doesn't know how to stick a look, and when he meets other Peter Parker, who's been washed up, he hates life pretty much. He's super easy. He's he can do pretty much everything easily, but Miles is doing this is Well, yeah, Mark is your typical high school student, then he gets all these powers. He goes a little bit more self-confident, after he gets his powers.
Like most of them.
Most of them, but then, we kind of go on, he fights his first fight, he saw some others, and then, he goes and gets his, actual costume when his dad, who was, is Nolan Grayson, Omni-Man, who's a writer, is you think you kids are invincible, and he's that's it.
See, the difference is you're
actually invincible. He's that's it. And that's name goes to the costume designer with Adam Eve.
You could tell he probably struggled with even letting them know that it's not just you just learned how to do your super strength, throwing away some trash. Literally, it all kicked in at once.
Everything. It's not at 15 you get super strength, 16 you get flight, 18 you get speed. Everything that's it's oh, here you go.
And as his dad, he was he knows him, he raised him.
Yeah.
He was this might be too much for you. But I can't stop you from it.
Yeah, it's well, he could easily.
Well, he could.
With force, but he's not going to because he respects his son enough. And then he meets Adam. We're kind of jumping, skimming over. It's Adam Eve's another super. Because I said, this world's full of superheroes. Adam Eve, if I was to sum her up in one word with the explanation of her power, she's basically God.
Which one was she?
She was the redhead with the pink spandex and can she in the show she just typically shoots energy blasts. But if I was to summarize,
was she in episode 1?
Yes, because she was with the costume designer, or at least if she was in the comics.
She was not in episode 1. I am on point, ladies and gentlemen. I'm right on this one. I'm like, cool.
But she does show up. I do believe, like, she's part of the costume designers. Like,
Okay.
she does show up.
He does all the design.
He does like every hero's. If you want a comparison, in The Incredibles, he's like the Edma mode, like the little short lady who designed everyone's costumes. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying.
Like,
you could tell that the writers and producers of that,
like,
they know their story is strong enough that they can shoot left-hand hook shots from the 3-point line. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Because like in a world full of superheroes, yeah, you would have someone in the professional business of designing costumes for superheroes.
Yeah.
You would have.
The story is the star of this. You can tell.
Yeah. Like, you would have a government entity like, all right, you guys work for us. You guys are all superheroes, but everyone's kind of like working for like this big like government to like help protect them.
Right.
So moving on, we get to basically the main highlight of this episode.
Let me get my cup real quick.
Hold on. Now, if anyone who has paid any slightest bit of attention to this series, seen anything on YouTube, this is one of the main highlights of the show overall. One being part of the season finale, the 2-part, and the other being quite obviously the ending 4 to 5 minutes of episode 1.
Well, it threw me off because they made it look like it was.
All right, hold up though. I know the show's been out for a month, but we're actually every time we're talking spoiler here. But if you haven't seen the show, big spoilers right here. Big spoilers.
Well, I was gonna say that it looked like the show was going off. And it was like, it almost started running credits with like 10 minutes left, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I thought maybe they're gonna do like a 10-minute on this season of The Incredible, right? But then it kicks in, and it's like, nah, it ain't over yet. And it's like, oh, you thought we was done? Psych!
Yeah. So all the Guardians of the Globe, which is like the Justice League of this world, they all come to like the secret headquarters because everyone got a message like, hey, did you send out the message? No, did you send out? Who sent us here? And bam, like, like I kind of had to stop and take points. I'm like, hold up.
I did not understand. This is where the conversation really
Gets interesting.
because I called you afterwards.
He did.
And probably I'm gonna clean this up, but I was like, "What the hell was that?" Because I told him because he told me prior to this, he's like, "Yo, it's really violent, blood, guts, killing, cussing, all of that." Right?
Well, not the cussing. Well, there was some cussing,
yeah, but I was like, "Okay, there was some cussing." I mean, that little violent, but it was like that was nothing different than any other superhero cartoon ever.
Well,
I mean,
like,
even Thundercats and G.I. Joe, and I mean, it was
like
all
some
of that.
of the older shows, like, yeah.
Right, it was like it was nothing, and then all of a sudden, when they all get there,
Bam!
when they get there, and then Omni-Man comes in.
And this whole cell.
Well, hold on. This is where I thought I was like, okay, this is where they're he's gonna introduce his son. It's like, yo, this is our new superhero friend or whatever. Because you notice there was a little tension between Omni-Man and the fake Justice League.
A little, because he said
remember in the first fight?
Yeah, he's like, he's a part of
I was gonna get him. Remember when the dude was like...
I was gonna get him. Like when Immortal was like,
yeah,
I was gonna get him.
Right.
It's so like, but it's like the little typical banter. It's like, oh snap, it's Omni-Man gonna get it fast enough. Like I gotta do it. It's like, I was gonna get him. Like kind of like a little bit of snark.
I thought it was like similar to like how you have police officers and security guards, right? Mm-hmm. They both do the same thing, so to speak, but one is more official, being like a police officer. It's like, oh, you guys, yeah, how cute, you got the security guards, yeah, kind of like police.
Well, actually, no. Like if anything, like Guardians of the Globe are more police officers, while Omni-Man's more of a security guard because he's not a part of any official team. That because like there's official teams in this universe.
But see, as they walk around as these superhumans or super alien beings, whatever they are. And I thought, he's like kind of like going to introduce his son, like this is the newest member of the club, so to speak. I know we have our differences, but he's like us now. And then all of a sudden, when they were like, yo, you didn't call us in? No, you didn't call us in? No, you didn't call us in? And then old boy comes in, and then booyah! Let's get it on. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, like I had to stop between a few points. I'm like, hold up. Like,
Yeah.
It was like that gruesome. Like I've only seen that level of violence in like a few films.
Yeah, like
but I was
dude's
expecting.
head.
Yeah, like I said,
Chopped his eye out.
Like Omni-Man just wholesale slaughters the entire team. In the comics, though, it was a curb stomp. Like it was not even.
The one
fight.
thing that was different, I saw what he was doing. He was taking damage, but he was still able to perform through it.
Yeah.
Like remember when the Red Flash was hitting him in his chest?
And like he was actually like taking damage to his chest.
Yeah, and his what's it called?
His suit was actually starting to break up.
Right, because he was getting hit so
much and so fast.
Right, and he started bruising and all of that. And I was just like, okay. And then I thought maybe at the end,
like they were actually gonna stop him. Like probably like 2 or 3 of them were most likely going to die.
Like when he snapped that chick's neck. Wow.
Like whole snap. It's not like your typical neck snap in movies where like neck, but like you can still kind of make out like the neck you can probably put back. Like nah, he full up 180 that whole neck.
I mean, karate chopped dude's head off.
He's called like he karate chopped dude's head. Like it was a wholesale slaughter, and like that was the most. Like I said,
He killed a couple. I was like, man, y'all couldn't even have pinched him.
Like, well, in the comics, like I said, it was a curb stomp. Like they basically did nothing to him.
Mm-hmm.
But in the shows, like they kind of nerfed him in a way to like make it more realistic. Like these guys are like some of the strongest people on the go, or at least the most capable. They're gonna find a way to hurt dude at least a little bit, which they did. I'll give them props. They did some damage.
They kind of alluded to him. Now I haven't seen episode 2, ladies and gentlemen, but they kind of when he was sitting there, he drops to his knees, and he's breathing heavy, and then he looks over and they're all dead, and then he takes a deep breath, and then he falls over, which kind of, if you were just guessing individually, you'd be like, okay, now he's dead. But something tells me for this to be episode 1, I don't know if he's dead.
I'm not gonna say anything because like I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just saying like the series is good. We talked about like I said, this is one of the most brutal fight scenes I've ever seen. I believe it's only second to 2 others.
What's that?
In the other series? We got one other fight in the season finale, which the 2-part season finale, which I'm not gonna say. And we have another one like in the middle, like right before that, where we basically have like a group. Like the most direct comparison, I guess you could say, is like someone made this comment online. It's like if Kingpin hired, Thanos, I believe, or Kingpin hired Thanos to fight a street fight. So you got this big old dude, ultra uber powerful, coming in, and he's fighting like the Teen Titans in a sense. Like you hired Darkseid to take on Teen Titans. It's not fair. In a sense, that's like the only other fight I would say that this is like possibly either tied or second to.
And this is what I thought eventually when I said, eat my honey roasted peanuts. What I was saying was the story had to be so intellectually stimulating that it doesn't need all, like you said, there's only 2 more fights that even compare.
In terms of brutality.
So I knew right then, well, that was part of what brought to my conclusion that, okay, I'm on board now. Yeah. I want to see where this is going. I hope I'm not disappointed, but by the way you characterize it, that I shouldn't be. But I'm like, okay, let me see where this is going. If you look at the cheesy kind of animation, the cheesy characters that they use in the fake Justice League, and you base your curiosity on that, you're gonna check out. Let me just tell you that right now. You're gonna check out. But if you can get past that, it's definitely gonna take you on a carpet ride that I feel might be worth it. And I got front row seat on the carpet.
Yeah, like I got off the carpet. I've seen the series at this point. Ooh.
Was it trash?
In my opinion, no.
Okay.
Like, other than, like I said, one character story arc, that was a subplot involving, like, the love interest Because I have a few choice
They always
words.
gotta do that.
They don't always have to. I have a few choice words about that.
They always seem to do it.
Like I said, I have a few choice words about that. And here's the thing: I'm black. My dad's black. We can get away with saying this when we come to it. But like I said, when we come to it, that being like the second half of the series, I'm focusing on. That's when we'll pretty much talk about like the whole relationship aspect. Because I don't want to spoil anything right now.
Right.
But with that, that's been our discussion.
Well, hold on, real quick.
All right.
So, what would you rate episode 1?
Episode 1?
Yes.
Based on kind of like the fact that it's typically kind of like your stereotypical stuff right up until like the last 10 minutes.
Right.
With that, if they didn't have the last 10 minutes, I would rate the episode probably like 6 or 7, kind of like that average range. But because of like that last 10 minutes, it boosted up to like a little bit of an 8, maybe 8.5.
For me, I gave it a 7. And the only reason why, and I'm nitpicking now. I'm literally nitpicking, because if I wasn't the person who I am, with some of the training that I've had, I probably would just right off the top give it an 8 or 9. But being that I do know a little bit about how these things are created, I feel like I'll give it a 7.
Is it because of like what I said, like the averageness of the show until like the last 10 minutes?
That plays a part in it. 2, like I said, they basically just threw those characters out there. They're like, we don't give a damn, because the story is what's gonna hold you. It's like, give you an example, right? Say you have a filet mignon, right? And your side dish, say, is some form of like red mashed potatoes with garlic and all of that, right? And then they give you as your secondary side some canned cream corn.
You're not here for like the first 2
You can afford to say, okay, get rid of the cream corn, because you got a filet mignon and some Yukon Gold with garlic and all of that in there, that you can afford to just throw cream corn on, because these two right here are going to satisfy you enough that doesn't even matter. And that's what I'm saying, is the story you can tell is developing, that is filet mignon, that the character being a fish man is cream corn. It doesn't even matter. You know what I'm saying? This right here is going to be such the showstopper that cream corn, whatever.
Yeah, it's not the main focus.
It's not at all.
Would I have liked personally, maybe like in an Elseworld story, like hey, in like universe, I don't know, 59 of like Invincible, like they survived and maybe they beat Omni-Man, or they reported him in, or maybe it was someone else. I don't know. Maybe, yeah, sure, it'd be kind of interesting. But if we're being honest, like we're not here for them.
I would like to them ramped up just for it to be more aesthetically pleasing to the eye. I would have liked for them to, made with a little bit more of because there were certain times that, like during fight scenes and stuff like that, you could tell like it was like a real rough draft with the animation.
Oh yeah,
like the lines in them, the outlines of them were super thick and all of that.
Yeah, but then again, this is the first season. Like they already are renewed for seasons 2 and 3, so by then the animation must be better. But I'm assuming they're still gonna rely on like CGI for like most of the backgrounds, because like
I don't expect them to be like Pixar.
Because here's the thing, like since you see the sprawling cities so many times,
right,
having the hand drawn over. I'm assuming that would get tiring eventually, but then again, mangaka or like manga creators, like they do that stuff in like a week. So what am I to say?
Right. So, like I said, for me to drop it down to a 7 is purely being petty and nitpicking.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm copping to that. But I, to be fair, to use your famous phrase, I only get with stuff like that with stuff I invest in. Like I'm invested in it, as far as watching it. If it was something else, I wouldn't care. You know what I mean? Because I really do personalize things. Like I said, for me to go this far to be, breaking it down all the way to the animation and storylines and how it runs parallel with real life. They're just using these certain things in the show as metaphors for other things that people use in real life. For me to even be that invested in episode 1 should, for future reference, should let you know how much I think it's a pretty cool show. So for me to give it 7 is it because I want to give it room. Because if I could, what if I just came out and was like, it's a 10?
Yeah, like,
and then it's like, okay, if it goes up higher, where do we go from a 10?
Yeah, like 10 would probably be perfect. So
Right.
unless you're a super fan of the show or of the series, you're never realistically going to give anything a 10.
I always want to give it that space to grow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that when it does get to the end of season 1 or end of season 2 even, I'll be like, now that's the 10.
And with one story arc though, I feel like if they keep to it in the comic like it is in the show, that if they keep it pretty much exactly the same, I was like, no, that's a 10. That's a 10 out of 10 moment. But if you want to know it, hey, you gotta read the comic. Most people probably would say it's like one of the major big parts that's like it doesn't get talked about often in society in general.
Right.
That's your little hint if you want to figure out what it is.
Okay.
But with that, my score is about 8.5. Your score is 7.
And that's being nitpicky.
Him being nitpicky.
Yeah.
But with that, that's our review of season 1, episode 1
Yes,
of
sir.
Invincible. When we come back, we might just go like, hey, we binge watched that entire half of the series. So here's season 1, episode 1, and here's the rest of the series.
Yeah.
But with that, my name is Omega Zero.
I am Late Night CJ, aka Sweet Daddy in the streets.
And we will catch you guys later.